Yo, what is going on, everybody? This is Etienne here, and I would like to welcome you all to my fourth video, where today I will be discussing who will the Miami Dolphins be drafted in the first round. And this is something I've seen a lot of people discuss. Personally, I have a pretty big mock draft addiction. I've been watching a ton of mock draft videos. I love watching and seeing who people predict we will draft and kind of why. So I thought I'd just make this video where we just quickly go over some of the people I see getting mocked to the Dolphins at 6 a lot, and then we'll kind of blast through the people we see getting mocked to us at 18, just because there's a lot more variance with the 18 pick, and I just don't want this video to be like 30 minutes. And then we'll talk about some combos, because I think whoever we draft with the first pick will also affect who we draft with the second pick in the first round. So let's get started with some of these guys that I see getting mocked to the Dolphins a lot in these mock drafts with pick number 6. And the first guy I want to talk about is Kyle Pitts. This is a guy that's just moved his way all the way up the draft boards, a tight end wide receiver hybrid from Florida. This dude is just an athletic monster. I see this dude being potentially the best pass catcher in the draft. NFL draft. I see a lot of people hyping him up. I see a lot of fans really want us to draft him. I've seen some rumors that the Dolphins also really want to draft him, and they're really high on Kyle Pitts, and if he's there, they would take him. I did a draft crushes video where I talked about him a lot, so watch that if you want to hear my opinions about him more. But I don't really know if there's anything else I can say about the guy that hasn't been said, right? Seems like an absolute monster. Seems like he's going to just be able to dominate safeties and corners, a mismatch nightmare who is too fast for linebackers to cover. And a lot of people are high on him for good reasons. The next guy I want to talk about is Jamar Chase, wide receiver, LSU. This guy is the top wide receiver in the draft. Some people say he's the best overall prospect. I don't know if he's better than, let's say, Kyle Pitts or Trevor Lawrence, but a lot of people really love this guy, and for good reason. He absolutely dominated in 2019 with LSU, right? 84 catches for 1,780 yards and 20 touchdowns. And the other thing about him is he has a lot of really crazy contested catches. This dude's 6'1", 208 pounds, and he knows how to use his size, to box out and dominate smaller corners. He has a lot of impressive catches. If you watch his highlights, it honestly reminds me of Devonte Parker, but maybe with a bit of a higher ceiling. Like, I honestly think Jamar Chase, Devonte Parker, Will Fuller, that trio has the potential to be top 10, maybe even top 5 receiving core in the NFL. So it would be pretty exciting if they drafted Chase. I have seen rumors that a Dolphins insider has said if Jamar Chase is there available for them, they will pick him within 30 seconds. There was some also rumors that the Dolphins weren't as interested in the players that opted out of the 2020 season, but in Chris Greer's press conference before the draft, he kind of went over this and said they do not care about that. They understand why some players opted out. Everyone has their reasons for it. Some players got to take care of, elderly relatives that obviously can't be at risk to COVID. So everyone has their own reasons why. And, I kind of agree with that as well. It would suck to really miss out on a generational talent like Jamar Chase just because he missed a year because of a pandemic. So going on with our next guy here I want to talk about is Devonte Smith, another wide receiver. There's been a ton of discussion about this guy because he's Tua's boy, right? Everyone says they're best buds. They play together at Alabama and they tore it up together. Devonta Smith also won the Heisman Trophy, which is super impressive for a wide receiver, right? He had 117 receptions, 1,856 yards with 23 touchdowns in this last season. He played with Alabama. There's some people that are questioning him because of his weight. This guy is only 166 pounds, but that's around what Chad Ochocinco, the Bengals legend, played with. And Chad has gone on Twitter and stated that he thinks Devonte will be fine, and that he's even hinted towards the fact that he would work with him. Hollywood Brown, who was drafted by the Ravens, I think that was the 2018 draft, they drafted him. He also weighs around the same as Devonte Smith, and that wasn't really an issue for him at all. He also could, now that he's in the NFL, get in this NFL strength and conditioning program, and I could see them having him add a couple extra pounds if they want to his frame. But at the same time, I don't know if they will, because one of the things that makes this guy so good is he's so quick and speedy, hard for people to get their hands on. One of the other things that I think is cool about this guy is he just has like this freaky wingspan where like his arms are just like super long, and he can just make some crazy catches. Some people say he has the best hands out of any player in this draft, and when you watch him play, like, he shows it with some of these catches he makes. I would say if you're a Devonte Smith non-believer, just watch his highlights from the national championship game against Ohio State. He only played in the first half of that game, and that's because that game was over after the first half. Like, he just absolutely popped off against these guys. And obviously, I think having the double Devonte Smith, Devontae Parker would be pretty cool. So that's another guy I see getting mocked to the Dolphins a lot. Another dude we'll talk about is Jalen Waddle, fellow Alabama wide receiver. There was early rumors that for the Dolphins, it was between Waddle and Smith for their first pick. They wanted to reunite Tua with one of his guys. I think Waddle's getting slept on a lot because he only played the first 4 games and then he ended up getting injured and missing the rest of the season. But he's fully healed up now, and in those 4 games he played, he did look super good. He honestly, I would say, even looked better than Devonte Smith in those first 4 games. And being able to put up crazy production like he did with another elite wide receiver on the field at the same time is also pretty impressive, because usually if you have 2 top receivers, they kind of, steal each other's targets. You can only throw the ball to one person, but he still looked really good. He's a little smaller, 5'10", but 182 pounds, so he weighs more than Devonte Smith. And the thing that I like about him is he's a slot guy, and that's really what the Dolphins need, right? They got Will Fuller and Devontae Parker, who they could put on the outside. They could take Waddle, line him up inside. I think having 2 speeders and Waddle and Will Fuller would also be great for Tua, because he does like those separation type wide receivers. And I think if the Dolphins do end up trading back, like with the Broncos, to pick number 9, Jalen Waddle is probably the guy they're going to end up with. That's just my prediction, but that's just what I think what's going to happen here. And there's one more guy that I see. He was getting mocked to the Dolphins a lot, but I don't see people saying they're going to pick him as much anymore, and that's Penei Sewell, the offensive lineman from Oregon. This dude's a generational talent. People have been hyping this guy up for a long time, right? He started at Oregon at the age of 18 and just instantly dominated, which is something you don't see a lot. Usually, takes them a couple years as a redshirt to, get bigger, grow more, so they could handle going up against these other college athletes. But he just showed up straight out the gate and just started destroying dudes. He's also only 20 years old, so he's really young, which means he has a good chance of improving. There's a lot of people that are kind of against the idea of the Dolphins drafting an offensive lineman just because we drafted 3 last year. But the thing about drafting Sewell is you draft him, let's say you put him at right tackle, you can then move Robert Hunt to right guard and then have Solomon Kinley compete with that left guard position for with Eric Flowers there, which is perfectly fine with me. I want them to have competition at the offensive line position. I think it's good. I think having the offensive line competition will create better offensive linemen. And also the thing is, right now we have to count on both Austin Jackson and Robert Hunt both improving quite a bit this year. If you have Sewell in the mix, you don't really got to count on that happening as much, because even though I have faith in all the guys they drafted, I think they all showed some really good flashes. Just odds are, if you draft 3 offensive linemen, not all of them are going to be absolute studs, right? Most NFL teams only hit on about half their picks, so just odds are it's not going to really work out the way a lot of Dolphins fans want it to. And I'm all about protecting Tua. Some people might say, taking a right tackle that high is an issue, but Tua's a left-handed quarterback, so the right tackle kind of serves the left tackle role in the Dolphins offense. And this guy has specifically been training at right tackle, even though he did play left tackle in college, which makes people think maybe a team told him they want to draft him but to play right tackle. Maybe that team was the Dolphins. The other thing I kind of think about Sewell is we've seen a lot of talk about him going to the Dolphins right up the start of free agency. kind of off-season time. But now you don't really hear anything about it. You don't see it as much in any of the mocks. And that kind of makes me think he's going to go to the Dolphins even more, just because he saw a similar thing happen with Tua last year, right? All we saw was Tua to the Dolphins last year. And then right kind of before the draft, we started seeing these rumors about offensive linemen. Oh, they're not going quarterback this year. They're going with an O-lineman. And then bam, what do we know? We get to draft night. They pick Tua 5th overall. Fooled you all. And I think maybe a similar thing might happen with Penei Sewell here. I also just want to give a quick shout out to Rashawn Slater. I've seen it happen in a couple mocks where they have the Dolphins picking it. I don't think they're going to do it, but he is a trade back target where if they do trade back to 9-10, I can see Slater being the pick there. So now, just quickly, I'll go through a lot of the guys I see again mocked to the Dolphins at pick number 18. So a lot of edge rushers. There's a big mix of them. You got Kwity Paye. He's kind of considered to be the number one guy just because all the other guys kind of have giant question marks. He kind of has the, I'd say, highest floor out of all the edge rushers in this draft. But you also got dudes like Azeez Ojulari. He might be a bit of a better fit for the Dolphins defense because he's kind of like a 3-4, 4-3 hybrid defensive end, outside linebacker. But the thing about him is he is smaller, so that can be an issue for him against NFL teams where if they just want to kind of run it to his side and have a larger offensive tackle bully him. But we didn't see that really happen to him at college at all, where he played at Georgia, and I could see him really fit in the scheme and being a good player for the Fins. You also got Jalen Phillips, University of Miami. The thing about him is he is considered to be like a top 10 defensive talent, maybe top 10 overall talent in this draft, but he had to retire for a year because of concussions. He had multiple concussions back when he was playing over in the Pac-12, and he had to take some time off. And then Miami came up to him and was like, yo, just come play for us. We don't care. He had some concussions. He came back, played a year, is entering the draft. Some NFL teams might not care about it, right? It's the NFL. You want to get a concussion, you could get a concussion. This isn't college football where, we got to pretend. But at the same time, now we're seeing a lot more teams in the current day getting more careful with these concussions, and it is scary to draft him because realistically he can be great for a year, but then one bad hit and that's the end of his NFL career. So speaking of risky edge rushers, there's also Jason Owe, who's probably the guy I've seen the most mixed thoughts about out of all these guys, because this guy out of all of them is probably the biggest athletic freak. This dude absolutely destroyed the Penn State Pro Day, but he had horrible production in his last year. He played 0 sacks, which a lot of people are holding against him because it doesn't really matter how much pressure you're getting on the quarterback if you're not getting any sacks, right? Sacks are pretty big. Everyone loves sacks. So I'm very interested to see what team drafts him and where he goes. So there's also a lot of RB talk, right? Naji Harris, another Alabama guy. A lot of people say he's one of the top players in this draft, but he plays running back, so his value isn't as high. He's very Derrick Henry-esque, but the thing about Naji is he's also a really good pass catcher, which the Dolphins like pass catching running backs. There's also Travis Etienne. The thing about Travis Etienne is he has that super speed, kind of like Waddle, where he has that second gear he could kind of kick it into, and when you hand the ball off to him, any single time, any play, there's a chance he's going to take that thing to the house, which is very exciting to see. I also see a lot of different offensive linemen fall to the pick number 18 in a lot of these mock drafts, right? Christian Darrisaw from Virginia Tech. I always see people talk about how he's just super dominant in the run game. There's also Elijah Vera Tucker. This is a guy that I've seen just climbing up the mock draft boards. Played with Austin Jackson. Super versatile offensive lineman. They could, mix them in anywhere, right? Like we cross-train all the offensive linemen, so we can move them all around, put them at guard, we could put them at tackle, move Austin Jackson, move Robert Hunt. Allows for a lot of flexibility, which is nice to see, especially because you got to worry about injuries to these guys. So having flexible offensive linemen that can move around is huge. There's also Tevin Jenkins, and the thing I like about him, he's a big, strong, and aggressive player. I saw on the CBS draft website, one of his weaknesses is he plays too aggressive, which I like that. I want these mauler offensive linemen that are just going to go after defensive players when they get the chance, to really, use their strength and weight and push these guys around. And we all love pancakes, so he could be a good fit for the Dolphins team as well. And now, linebackers, Micah Parsons. At the start of all these mock drafts, people were having him consistently always top 10. Now I'm starting to see him fall to 18 because people are saying there is some off-the-field issues. I won't get too much into that, but I will say this dude has all the talent and athletic traits to really be a beast in the NFL. There's also, hopefully I pronounced this right, Jeremiah Owusu-Karamoah, the linebacker slash safety from Notre Dame. Some people say he won't really fit in a 3-4 as much as he would in a 4-3 because he is kind of smaller for a linebacker, but he is a great coverage guy. He can blitz, and I can see him actually really fitting Brian Flores' defense because even though he runs a 3-4 as his base defense, we run a lot of hybrid defenses where we will trade out one of those 4 linebackers for a safety, right? You've seen in a lot of games Brandon Jones lining up as a linebacker, so why not draft a linebacker safety kind of guy? I see people always compare him to Jamal Adams, and I think having a Jamal Adams type player in this defense would be pretty great for the Dolphins. And then there's also Zaven Collins. This guy could be our Kyle Van Noy replacement. I talked about this guy in my draft crushes. I really like this dude. I just think he's an athletic beast. He hasn't been playing the position for too long, so I think he's just going to continue to get better. And if you want to hear me say more about this guy, watch my draft crushes video. And then also, the last guy I'm going to talk about is Rashad Bateman, wide receiver from Minnesota. This guy is the consensus number 4 wide receiver in the draft. I've seen earlier on when people were drafting a Sewell at pick number 3, a lot of people had the Dolphins then taking Bateman at 18. I think a lot of people will be disappointed if the Dolphins don't use their first pick to get a pass catcher, but I think Bateman can also be really good. And the one thing to also remember, last year there was also 3 wide receivers that were by far the best that everybody loved, right? Henry Ruggs, CeeDee Lamb, and Jerry Jeudy. But you know who was the best wide receiver was last year out of all the rookies? Justin Jefferson, the 5th one taken. So I'm not going to say that Rashad Bateman is Justin Jefferson and the same thing's going to happen this year, but keep an open mind, right? You never know how good these players are actually going to turn out, and Rashad Bateman does have a ton of potential. They could put him in the slot if he would fill a big need for this team, and I could see him being pretty good. So I'm going to just talk about some combos of some players we might draft. So one combo is if we go wide receiver, we then grab an edge rusher, right? So I could see us leaving the draft with Jamar Chase, and then let's say Kwity Paye, or there's also a scenario we go, offensive lineman, Sewell, and then we get Rashad Bateman with pick number 18. There's a chance we go, wide receiver, say Kyle Pitts, the wide receiver tight end, and then we grab an offensive lineman at pick number 18. And then there's also the Alabama super combo where we get Devonta Smith and then use the number 18 pick to draft Naji Harris. So that's just kind of like some of the combos we could go for. Obviously, I could kind of go all day about different combos, but I see this video is getting pretty long, so I'm going to try and end it here before we hit the 20-minute mark, because does anyone really want to listen to me talk for 20 minutes? We'll see. So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment letting me know what you think. As I said, this is only my 4th video, so I'm still looking for advice on how I could improve. And until then, thanks for watching, and hopefully I see you in my next video.